Hey guys, welcome back to more malicious compliance stories. In this Ripe Stories video, my boss dared me to quit. Not because I was bad at my job, but because I spent a week redesigning his website. He thought I would panic, but instead I resigned immediately, and what happened next turned his discipline lesson into a disaster for him. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, "Boss says I should quit because I like spending time on hobbies, so I did." So for some context, I was working for a startup engineering firm working as a piping design engineer. But since it was a startup firm, we did not have a lot of manpower, and the ones we had were not as qualified either. I was one of the very few qualified enough to handle a team of my own, and the boss trusted me with almost everything. I was like the second in command after the boss only because I was managing a lot of things on the side on a voluntary basis. Things like paycheck balancing, client meetings, quality assurance, documentation, and other stuff which he should have hired someone else to do. However, I was good at it and he took full advantage of it by giving me things to do that never were under my job description. One day, he had this bright idea that we should revamp our website to attract more clients, and he gave this project to his nephew, who just graduated from college as a developer of some sorts. After a week or so, the nephew came up with the first draft of the website, and the boss was fairly disappointed as it didn't look anywhere near to what he expected, and he then called me in and asked me if I knew anything about website design. At that time, I was very much interested in UI/UX and was doing an online course to learn about it more. So I told him I'll see what I can do. I spent the next week full making a proper information architecture, wireframes, and color guidelines that the nephew could pick up, and built the website from scratch. In the end, the website looked futuristic and the boss was pretty happy, but during the week my other responsibilities were put in a backlog and it just kept piling on. I knew I would be able to cover it once I'm done with the website and didn't pay much attention to it. The next week my boss caught up with the backlog and called me into his cabin. He started yelling at me for all the responsibilities that I didn't attend to. I calmly told him that I was working on the website and it's not a big deal, told him I would clear it out as soon as possible, but he was not happy. And guys, I can already imagine what's coming next, because as usual, no good deed goes unpunished. He asked me why I spent so much time doing something that is not even my responsibility, and I told him that I was learning about UI and UX and was pretty much interested to learn more. I obviously never thought about pursuing it as a career or something, because frankly, I was a mechanical engineer by qualification and didn't think jumping to IT would be easy, but the boss snapped and told me that I should quit and dared me to pursue my hobby as a living. He said that only then will I understand how lucky I am to have a job that pays. I kind of got offended by that because number one, he doesn't even pay me the worth of things I do for the company, and number two, he knew I could cover and yet took this as an opportunity to discipline me. I stepped out of the cabin, went to my desk and put in my resignation and went home. He then called me a couple times, asked me to revoke my resignation, and then made other people from the organization call me to convince me to come back, but well, I was not having it at all. It has been 2 years now. I decided to pursue UI and UX as a career now, and I'm working as a product designer in one of the biggest organizations in the country with a pay that is almost 300% more than what I was getting as a mechanical engineer. Update to the story: to all the people who wanted to know the company's status today, the company was shut down because they had to pay a huge penalty for not being able to deliver the last project I was handling. Then the pandemic hit and they had to reduce pay for all the other staff, which led to people leaving, and eventually the company went bankrupt for not being able to keep up financially after the pandemic. And yeah guys, if you enjoy these satisfying malicious compliance stories where awful bosses get exactly what they deserve, then you will love the next one. This one is from r/bestoff and is titled "Boss fired me for being fat. What can I do?" Also, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Backstory: I'm a woman in my mid-30s and very overweight. Not to the point of handicap or something, but I'm a big girl. I work at a company with around 25 employees and have been here for around 8 years. Recently, the business was sold to a larger corporation who sent their own people in for management roles after laying off our entire management team, consisting of 4 people. I work with clients in the field and have a good work record, and my clients like me, and I've built relationships with them. Turn to today, I get called into the office of one of the new managers who tells me my appearance is not a good fit for a client-facing role, and I can either take a pay cut and work in the call center or take unpaid leave and come back after I have lost a considerable amount of weight. Honestly, I was floored. I've never had a client have an issue with my weight, at least outwardly, and I'm good at my job. I meet all productivity goals and have never even received a write-up in my 8 years. I pushed and asked him if there had been any complaints, to which he said no, but they weren't ahead of any future issues which may arise. I said straight up, "So you're punishing me because I'm fat? Are you also demoting obese male coworker in same role as me?" He said no and didn't answer when I asked why the situation was different. I left fuming and told him I was going home for the rest of the day to think about things. Can this really be legal? What recourse do I have? Update number 1 to the story. So I spoke with the law office my sister recommended this morning, and I've been asked to no longer post online about the situation. Sorry for such a non-satisfying update. Update number 2, I posted this 2 weeks ago and a lot has happened already. Something happened before I could go any further with the lawyer I spoke to. So the Monday following the incident, I was asked to come speak with a VP of HR I'd never met before and only knew by name because they worked directly for the company that bought ours out. When I walked in the conference room, there were 4 people waiting for me, 2 of which I was told was part of legal. What I didn't realize is my friend, who I mentioned in the comments of the other post, ended up saying something to another coworker because he was so horrified at the whole situation, even though I told him to keep it secret. This information ended up making its way up the chain and was not taken well, to say the least. Well, I was asked to explain exactly what happened, who I told, and asked a lot of questions. Everything I said seemed to make them very uncomfortable, especially when I told them I was in touch with a lawyer. They had me leave the room for nearly 40 minutes and then called me back in and let me know they were very concerned about the situation and assured me it was an isolated power trip basically. This is the holy crap part. They say that due to my long tenure in my position, knowledge of how the team works, and my relationship with clients, that they felt I would be a good fit for the position the jerk manager set in, and if I wanted the position, it was mine, as their way of saying sorry, so to say. They also made sure to mention the large salary increase and bonuses this would come with. I took a couple minutes to think about it and took the offer. By the way, I'm not stupid, I know they did this so I wouldn't take any legal action against them, but I love my job and I don't blame them for the actions of a 20-something on a power trip. I also know it came down to the he said, she said and would have been a hard case to prove. There's gonna be a company-wide training on gender and interpersonal relations, and I finally have an office with a door I can actually close. I'm in the field a lot less now, so I guess the jerk got what he wanted because now I don't interact face-to-face nearly as much as I used to. Edit for clarification, he was fired, not demoted or transferred. And the next one is another satisfying workplace story where a boss gets exactly what he deserves. It is titled, "My boss basically told me to suck it up, get demoted or quit, but if you quit, give us 6 months notice so we can replace you." So in the industry I work in, I was tossed into a position where I was gonna be wearing a lot of hats. My boss has been relentless ever since he put me into a new role just 2 months after I was hired for a different one. It took him 8 months to provide me with a job description for this new role. This role was intended for him originally, but he said he needed someone else to take it on because he was already slammed. There was no structure at all, and he had no plans for it. He would leave out information or not include me in key meetings with executives or donors. If he made a mistake, he would say it was me that did it. If a plan he had failed, it was my fault, and he made sure to make everyone believe that I was just dramatic. Fast forward a year later, and I'm very overwhelmed. I'm given impossible deadlines and workloads that have started to affect my mental health. My boss will ask me to do stuff out of work hours or to work overtime to prove that I'm giving my all. However, I decline these things because to me, I work my 40 hours and that's it. After many people urged me to talk with my boss about the burnout I'm feeling and him sending messages to my team asking us to approach him if we feel burnout, I did so. His response was to put down my entire team and saying that we are unmotivated and that I need to decide whether I can work harder because, if not, I should find a different career or calling in life. He tried to paint it as him guiding me to help. He told me that I'm working above my pay grade and that I should either accept a demotion, suck it up and try harder, or give him a 6-month notice that I'm quitting. He brought up how I might have something psychologically or mentally wrong with me and that I need to figure out what I want in life. Well, little does he know, the former college I used to lecture at has invited me to apply to a new position on campus that pays almost more than double my job pays me now, and it comes with many more benefits. I'd also be working with people I loved working with before, and I would also be a part of a union. I'm praying and hoping that I get this new position so I can give him a one-day notice about my departure. Update number 1. If you saw my last post on this subreddit, you know my boss is an asshat. He recently started to question my workload and the workload of my coworkers because we are all stressed and burned out. He tried framing this assignment as him trying to help us to see if he can help us better time manage things, but we've gone to him with requests and feedback before and keep getting told, "You just have to work harder, that's what I do." I had to block off my entire calendar to do this task today, but I'm gonna write the most obnoxious and highly detailed essay just to piss him off. In grad school, I was notorious for overwriting and taking my time to get to the point. Who knew that fun little skill would come in handy today? To answer the 2 popular questions, number 1, no, I cannot quit on the spot because I cannot afford it, and number 2, yes, I'm looking for other jobs / actively applying. Update number 2, my boss, being the narcissist that he is, came to the conclusion that although I provided all the deliverables and met all the expectations we set out, I am just not living up to his standards, and he would like to conduct a performance review with me. He will also be having me do a performance improvement plan. I questioned him heavily in our last meeting about the necessity of a performance review if I am performing to the expectations set out. He tried to claim that there was something serious that needs to be addressed and he needs HR and the executive director involved. He tried to say that he was going to be giving me constructive criticism, but his constructive criticism consists of creating elaborate lies about my work ethic. He tries to cover up his mistakes, terrible memory, and lack of organization by blaming his staff. In my last performance review, he told HR and the ED that I never finish my work and that I make mistakes. That was the first time I'd ever heard about that. Our product management system captures everything, and it shows that I'm on track, no late tasks, and complete all work given to me. I'll be quitting before he tries to conduct this performance review. I've been interviewing at other places with better pay and benefits, and my entire organization is now falling apart, and 4 people have quit within a month. We are a staff of less than 40. I'm jumping ship at the perfect moment. Edit to answer the most popular questions here. Number 1, I'm going to quit on the spot within the next 2 weeks. I'm not sticking around to be gaslighted any longer. Number 2, the essay was already written with the assistance of ChatGPT. Number 3, yeah, I've been applying and interviewing at other places. And number 4, HR, the executive director, and the CEO at my nonprofit organization do not care about their employees. They have a high turnover rate for a reason, and they retaliate against any staff that brings up concerns. They won't fire you, but they will make your life a living hell until you quit. Final edit, I hear some of your concerns about the hostile work environment and will be contacting the Department of Labor about it. I also wanted to address all the folks in the comments who are assuming that I'm being irresponsible by quitting. I have other options lined up, I'm waiting for responses, and I will not be staying at this job and waiting to get fired. I've been hospitalized from the stress that my work has been putting on my heart condition, and well, this will not end well if I just stay there. I am in my mid-20s, an athlete, and hold a graduate degree. I shouldn't stay to prove a point, I should go where I am valued. Final update to the story, since I had so many people in my message requests and comments the last couple days begging for an update from this post, I thought I would jump on here and close this little journey of mine. So to make it very clear, I'm leaving this job soon, interviewing with a couple of different universities right now, and I work at a nonprofit that is very disorganized. There's no way I'm sticking around to get fired to prove a point, there's no severance pay in this organization. I tried to take some of your comments and my family's advice by going to HR to bring up the issues that have been occurring with my boss in terms of him lying about my work ethic, micromanaging me, and alluding to firing me. However, HR didn't care at all and tried to tell me that she cannot document my complaint even though I have a paper trail because it is a he said she said, and then there's the actual truth. That is what she said. Also, fun fact here, she kept calling me by the wrong name and said, "I don't even know what you do here." During my next meeting with my boss, I was just brutally honest with him about his poor management style, obviously in a professional way, and he tried not to make it too obvious that HR came to him and told him everything because he said, "Concerned coworkers have come forward to tell me some things you've been saying." But none of my coworkers know the extent of the issues, and only HR knew the specific details he ended up bringing up. He gaslighted me the entire time, saying, "I never said this, you misinterpret me, and by the way, I document every single thing we talk about, so you must be confused." I shut him down with only facts and just stared at him while he tried to rewrite the reality of everything. He kept begging me to say anything that could make him feel better. He ended the conversation by admitting that we are having a performance review and putting together a PIP not because of my actual performance, but because I misinterpret everything. I'm assuming he means the long minute-by-minute essay, and I can promise you all, I do not misinterpret anything, especially with my message, screenshots with him, the voice recordings I've taken of him, and our project management system exchanges. I don't care anymore, my ED does not care, nor does my CEO. Our board of directors is basically non-existent, so there's no one else I can go to for help. All of the jobs I've been interviewing for are 15 to 20k difference in pay I receive now, and the benefits are amazing. I will not fight to stay at a place that only gives 3 days of sick pay, 6 days of PTO, and 4 paid holidays off. I have learned from this experience that you should never back down from your truth, even if it means writing an 8-page, overtly detailed essay about my work tasks to prove a point. And now let's read another story from r/revenge stories, which is a new subreddit for revenge stories that I recently found. This one is titled, "You Want Us to Break Up? Fine." So my mother-in-law is truly awful. She constantly makes remarks about me not deserving my fiancé, and we are a sort of modern couple with him bringing in 70% of the money and doing about 30% of the household chores, and me vice versa. It's not an exact math, of course, but we are content with the workload and the bill division. My mother-in-law thinks that I should do all the chores and calls my job a small part-time gig that I should be happy to do to help out without neglecting my duties. Fiancé disagrees, but going low contact is difficult when his father is, and his sister-in-law, brother's wife, and I have gotten close. So my fiancé, his brother, and SIL and I schemed to have me break up with him in front of his mom and just leave a wake of disastrous consequences to show her. When she made a new remark at New Year's about it being time for him to find a traditional wife, I said she was right and broke it off. She was shocked immediately and tried to walk it back. My fiancé had a meltdown begging me to stay, while my brother-in-law and his wife instigated by asking my mother-in-law if she was racist. They didn't tell me about this part, but it was funny because she doesn't seem to be racist in any real way. However, she started to panic as I stormed out, and my fiancé moved back home and has been bugging her to do all the things I do on the daily. Cooking and helping him with his New York time puzzles and steaming his clothes and claiming she owes him for making me leave. So this woman has been calling me non-stop begging to talk, and after just 8 days she showed up at my work to full-on apologize, complete with a confession that blew me away. She legit admitted to thinking that I loved him enough to let her say whatever without consequences, and assumed that bugging me would get me to do more for her son so he could have more time for her and time to relax. He currently works long hours as owning a home is a goal for us, and though I also work doubles, she thinks that customer service is not as hard as IT, even though working with the public is super exhausting. She cried and begged me to take him back and said that he was lazy. When I reluctantly agreed, she promised to leave me alone and the next day sent me a gift basket with C's candy in it. My fiancé admitted he started to be extra needy to her on purpose after the second day because he missed me and wanted to drive her crazy enough to get her to apologize quickly. And yeah guys, let me know in the comments what you think about this new revenge subreddit, but I kind of like this story already. And the next one is a Karen lawn drama saga story. So I make a living doing landscape maintenance, mostly for commercial properties and wealthy homeowners. Unsurprisingly, the wealthy homeowners tend to be the most difficult customers. I could probably write a book with the amount of ridiculous requests I receive. I added a new customer, Karen, real name, to my weekly route recently, and the first visit to her home was yesterday. Using Google Maps, I bid the property for 1 hour of work. When I showed up, the place was a mess. It had not been serviced in months. I spent 2 hours making this place look about as perfect as it could. I cleaned up 2 half-dead palm trees, trimmed all the bushes, mowed, edged, string trimmed, and cleaned up all the leaves I was able to. An hour later, Karen calls my company, aka me, to complain about the work done. Apparently, they blew leaves into the corner of her property and left them. Well, that is complete BS, but okay, I will entertain the nonsense. By the way, Ripe Stars, something just came to my mind. You know, when I look into the analytics of my channel, I can see what other videos my audience watches, and interestingly enough, there is a channel, or actually quite a few channels, where some guy basically mows the lawn or the front yard or whatever of people for free, and then he has the craziest stories happen to him. So usually the people are like super thankful that he mowed their nasty looking property for free, but then often there is like some kind of entitled Karen neighbor or whatever that complains, and it really reminds me of these Reddit stories, but just happening in real life on camera. Have you ever watched these kind of videos? I'm just curious, let me know in the comments. The leaves in question were already in the back corner of the property, embedded in the pine straw, as they had been there for quite a while. And standard practice is blowing out any loose leaves from garden beds and mulching or bagging them, which had been done. Karen did not really want to hear reason when I tried to explain this, and insisted that I send someone out to get the remaining leaves. So I went back and got every leaf off of her property, including over 75% of the pine straw. Of course, she called again to complain about her missing pine straw, at which point I reiterated the same thing I told her before. I let her know I'd be happy to replace the pine straw for $400. And well, I have not heard back yet. Update to the story: so a week after the events in my initial post happened, I got a call from Karen. She asked if I was still willing to do the pine straw job for $400. I told her I would have no problem with it, but asked why she would want to use my services again when she wasn't satisfied with my prior work. Apparently, this lady discontinued services from 3 other landscape companies in the area and was having trouble finding anyone to do the job. I'm guessing that means they all fired her as a customer for being really ridiculous. I went and did the job this morning, and upon finishing, she was at least content enough with the work that she requested bi-weekly landscape maintenance moving forward. I politely declined, and when she asked why, I told her the truth. Ma'am, you seem to be a bit unreasonable, and I don't have the desire to deal with it. It did not go over too well, but she paid for the work today, and I left. Anyone wondering why I'd go back for the one job in the first place? It was an easy $200 profit for an hour of labor, so why not? And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. So there's a Karen that lives in my neighborhood that acts totally different when her husband is and is not around. When he is there, she acts totally normal, a bit entitled still, but does not start up with anybody and is tolerable. Also treats her kids great, and they seem like one big happy family, but I've seen her several times alone or just with her kids, and that is when the real Karen comes out. I once saw her at the grocery store making some teenagers stocking shelves basically cry because they did not have something that she wanted. Ignoring the fact that obviously this kid does not order stock, you just don't yell at people. Not to mention her daughter, who is only like 5, was with her and watching her mother swear and be a horrible person. Like, great role model abilities, Karen. Usually I mind my own business and I'm not one to get involved with things like that. That changed when I saw how she decided to punish her kid one day for misbehaving. They were leaving like a kid play place that is in a shopping center. I was next door, which is a nail salon, and leaving when I saw them coming out. Also, at some point I saw Karen in there getting her nails done. And since her husband was not there, she 100% left her 5-year-old in the play center alone, which is not allowed to get her nails done. I heard her daughter crying and screaming because she didn't want to leave, and then screaming because she wanted ice cream, and Karen said no. I cannot blame a 5-year-old for having a tantrum, especially when I don't know the kid. She could have been overtired or overstimulated. Or more likely, just acting like mommy does when she doesn't get her way. Anyway, Karen decided to teach her daughter a pretty cruel lesson. So basically her daughter at that point has sat herself down on the sidewalk and was refusing to get up. So Karen decides to leave without her, and yes, I'm well aware many parents pretend to walk away or leave to get their kid to stand up and come. I want to be clear though that this is not what Karen was doing at all. Karen just walked away without looking back at her daughter. She got into her car and started the engine. Once she was out of sight going to the car, the daughter started to go after her and shouted to wait for her. Karen did not stop though, and instead pulled the car out and left the parking lot with her daughter just standing there. Now she was crying even harder because she really thought that her mom had abandoned her and was gone forever. I had no idea if Karen was coming back or not, but I did not care and was on the phone with the police. I also recorded on my phone the entire thing, so when they came I could show them what actually happened. The cops arrived really fast and Karen came soon after, confused as to why all the police were there. They explained that she left her daughter and they were taking her into protective custody. Karen started screaming and going off about how she was teaching her child a lesson and that this country is too PC now with not letting parents discipline their kids. Karen saw me too and confronted me asking if I was the bitch that called the cops on her. I told her yes and I would do it again, knowing that she was going to come back. I even told the police that she left her kid in the other store alone to go get her nails done. Karen was furious, but I was allowed to leave, so I did think that things were over. However, it was far from that. Karen started stalking me, both in person and on social media. She made a ton of fake accounts to comment on my public posts and insult me. I found her driving up and down my block watching me, and I was starting to get creeped out. This went on for weeks with me not knowing if I should call the police or just ignore it, because she was not trespassing and was more of a nuisance than a danger. I opted to get a little bit of revenge on Karen and email her husband exactly what she did that day and a ton of other things that I've seen her do. I sent him the video so he could see the woman that his wife really was. A nasty Karen that was putting on a front for him and for probably the entire time they had known each other. I did not get a response back, but felt like I taught her a lesson and she would maybe back off from stalking me. Instead though, it got worse. One day she did come onto the property and started banging on my door like a crazy person. I was not even in the house but the backyard, but I heard the banging and went around to the front to see her. She started losing her mind at me and I found out a few things from her random screaming. So she had just been to court where her husband had gotten full custody of both kids. The daughter and the son, who knows where he was that day at the shopping center, he was angry when he found out what Karen did and decided to leave her and get custody of the kids, claiming she was not fit. He won and she decided that I destroyed her entire family and that I had to pay for it. So neighbors could hear her yelling and one even shouted that he was calling the police, but that did not stop Karen at all. She kept laying into me like I had been the one to do all of these things when it was actually her being the horrible person and even worse, mother. I did not know that she brought a gun with her until it was too late and she pulled it out and fired. I don't know how somebody could aim that badly, but I'm grateful for it because instead of shooting me in the head or the heart or some other vital organ, she just got me in the foot. Don't get me wrong, it hurt like hell and I was on the ground screaming my brains out, but she didn't shoot again and instead started kicking me for some reason. Maybe she only had one bullet or the gun jammed or something. Anyway, police came during that and I heard them screaming for her to drop the gun. I was too focused on my pain and half blacking out that I couldn't see what was happening, but I heard it. I guess she didn't comply and they used a taser on her dumbass to take her down. We both had to go to the hospital and despite being a good distance away, I could hear her still being a Karen in the hospital while under arrest. Only she could still be acting entitled when handcuffed to a bed. The doctors were able to see the bullet went right through my foot. It didn't go through bone, but I needed surgery because the tendons were damaged. You can be sure I was making sure that any hospital bills were going to get paid by Karen before the end of everything. I told the police about the stalking so they could add that to her rap sheet, but it was obvious to anybody that she was going to jail. Basically, she shot me in broad daylight, assaulted me, did not listen to police, and admitted to police that she wanted to kill me. Nothing she could have possibly said or done was going to make her stay out of jail. Even pleading guilty was not gonna help anything at this point. She was going to prison for 30 years when all was said and done, and I'm glad that I'm done needing to deal with or see her anymore. I wish I knew what happened with her husband and the kids, but I don't and honestly wanna just leave them alone and let them live their lives. Most of the time I know they say that having two parents is better, but I think they are better off without Karen as their mother. And the next one is a petty revenge story and it is titled Last One Out, Please Turn Off the Lights. So I am the GM of a large-ish family-owned company. I've been there for ages and loved my job until recently. The CEO until 6 months ago was the founder of the business and pater familias of the extended family. However, he passed away suddenly and his granddaughter, let's call her Karen, has taken over. It started well as she is clever, hardworking and experienced. There was a lot of goodwill as everyone was very loyal to the old man and wanted to help his granddaughter, but she is also a bully, a drunk and a vocal misandrist. Our workforce is predominantly male. At a business drinks function, Karen got drunk, loudly denounced our most loyal and biggest 60% of revenue customer, Bob, as pale, stale, and male, and then loudly racially abused my wife when she tried to retrieve the situation. This was not by any stretch her first meltdown at customers, employees, or their wives. So I met Bob the next week, apologized profusely, and asked if he had ever thought of opening his own plant. He had. He and Mrs. Bob had denied our place, and we all made some plans. In the coming weeks, myself, my leadership colleagues, and our machine operators have quietly signed up to work at the new plant. We've had after-hour meetings, which we codenamed Fight Club, to plan the new business. It was all very exciting. Here's the revenge bit. We are all on week-to-week employment contracts, and Friday last week we all resigned by email 5 minutes before clockout time. Karen was sitting at her desk with email after email rolling in, with resignation in the subject line. You could see the blood draining from her face. I almost felt sorry for her, almost, and then I remembered what she said to my wife. Tomorrow is our last day. We've recruited almost all the remaining employees to the new business, and I have a non-compete clause in my contract, so it is a forced 3-month holiday for me. On Monday, the lights won't come on, the motors won't turn at our old plant, it'll just be in Karen and a pile of raw material with no one to process it. Her business has sufficient equity to recover, but it'll be 6 months by the time she recruits a new team, recommissions the plant, and gets the order book full again. It will take her 18 to 24 months to get the business out of the red. And yeah guys, I'm not sure how that was posted on r/pettyrevenge. That is pro-revenge if you ask me. Props to OP for teaching that awful Karen a lesson. And thanks for watching, I will see you again tomorrow.